Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the travel webinar series presented by Advantage International, Traveling Culturati, and Traveling While Black. That's our newest brand. I'm Javon Harley, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's webinar. My partner, Gene Harley, is navigating behind the scenes. He's always behind the scenes, but he gets a whole lot done. If you're already part of our travel family, I want to say thank you so much for the many years of traveling with us physically. And now we're traveling virtually, so I appreciate that. And if you're new to our travel family, I want to say thank you for signing up to see what we're all about and for coming along with us on this travel experience, this virtual travel experience. Advantage International is in its 22nd year of providing group travel services primarily to African American travelers, corporate and media outlets. Traveling Culturati is our radio show on Sirius XM, channel 141, with on HUR Voices. And of course, the focus there is travel. Traveling While Black is our newest marketing brand. So for 22 years and counting, we have been focused on the Black traveler and the Black travel experience. We've been working with destinations around the world and curating itineraries for our 2021 and our 2022 travel calendar. And through this process, we've attended numerous webinars. So we thought to bring that experience to you so that you can have this virtual travel experience with us. Now, we have many exciting destinations, as you can see here, lined up in our webinar series through to the end of the year. We're not going to do all of them, but we are going to do a great deal of them. And this is all in preparation of when we see you again. Now, today is the very first installment of our travel webinar series, and we're going to Fiji, a Melanesian country in Oceania. And it's an archipelago. There are so many wonderful things about Fiji, and we have an awesome panel lineup of guests who are going to tell us all about it. Bob Para, Trade Partnership Manager with Tourism Fiji.
Bula.
Struble Becker, Regional General Manager for Fiji Airways. And unfortunately, Struble is having some webcam technical difficulties, so he's not pictured here, but sometime during the presentation, he just might pop in. That we don't know.
Bula, everyone.
Bula. Loretta St. Julian Ooms, General Manager, Fiji and Asia Sales for South Sea Cruises. And last but certainly not least, Adeline Lee Aracito, Director of Business Development for Rosie Holidays. And if you have any questions, you'll notice that you have a question box. You can type them in there, and we'll make sure to answer all of them, and they will all be answered at the very end of the presentation. So let's get started. We're going to start things off with Bob Para and Tourism Fiji. Bob Para has been visiting Fiji for 20 years, serving in roles with Fiji's international airline, Fiji Airways, and the Intercontinental Fiji Resort prior to joining Tourism Fiji in 2017. Fiji is where Bob learned how to scuba dive, surf, stand-up paddle, and cook island cuisine. Man after my own heart, I'm such a foodie. However, his favorite experiences always involved local insider interaction, be it visiting a chief of a traditional Fijian village, learning traditional songs of the South Pacific, exploring Fiji's vast chain of islands, or hiking up into the mini rainforest and waterfall hikes with a local guide. Welcome, Bob. That's some introduction.
Yeah, that is quite an introduction. I learned a lot about myself, but thank you very much for having us, Javon, and we are, of course, grateful that you're coming to visit Fiji. We look at the list of all the countries that you plan to visit in 21 and 22, and it's an impressive list, and we are grateful and appreciative that you are coming to visit Fiji. We're one of the stops this year. And yeah, you're right. I've been blessed, and time has flown, but 20 years later, I find myself still very much tied in this Fiji game. It's changed and affected so much of my life. You don't have to be going to Fiji for 20 years for it to change your life or have an effect on your life. And I'll talk about sort of that sort of transformation that Fiji bestows upon anybody, even if you're just there for a week. Like you said, it's where I learned how to surf. It's where I learned how to dive. It's where I learned how to get past my fear of sharks, and of course, most importantly, how I made strong relationships. I've known Adeline for close to 15 years now, I think, Adeline probably, and I've known Loretta for close to 5 because Adeline introduced me. And it's so reaffirming and life-changing, like I said, and not because simply the surrounding or the beauty that you're thrust into when you arrive in Fiji. It's because of the deep connections that you make with people when you come to Fiji. It's one of those rare destinations where you're encouraged, or it's almost compulsory, mandatory, that you're going to interact with the locals. They're the ones who host you and greet you at all of these resorts. They're checking you in. They're showing you around the resort. They're going to tell you all the activities that you can do out there. They'll probably invite you to meet their auntie and uncle and come into their village and sit down and meet their local chief and sing their local songs. But let me go into, so I don't jump all over the place, let me go in some sort of order here. Let's start off first with where the heck is Fiji?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, aside from learning how to spell it the right way without a G, it's with a J. You know, it's once you've cleared that, and you're almost there. So now you find it on a map, and you'll find, you know, just kind of look. Everyone, their first island experience is often someplace in Hawaii, which is a beautiful place in the Pacific Ocean. Now go about another, a little bit southwest of that for another 4 hours, and you're in Fiji. And if you go all the way to look on the map to where Australia is, you'll see we're very close to Australia, very close to New Zealand. So you have a map up here. There's actually 333 islands located in Fiji. Obviously, you don't have all of them here because many of them, most of them are uninhabited. Like a third of the islands in Fiji are inhabited. And of those that are inhabited, maybe a third of those might have a place where you would actually stay. So the beauty of this is that we don't have over-tourism in Fiji. We don't ever have any sort of overcrowded situation. Any experience that you're looking to make yours and yours alone, you're not going to have to wait for hours for the next crew or the next group of tourists to move out of the way or get out of any line, because that just doesn't exist in Fiji. It's not that kind of experience. It's pretty much go at your own pace, plan out your days ahead of time for sure, so that you're not missing anything, but you can go at your own pace pretty much. One thing I'll say about where we are is we're an overnight flight away, and I know Struble will talk about that a little more.
Right.
But the way we look at it, you leave at 10 o'clock at night out of LA, you land in Fiji at about just before sunrise. So you fall asleep on the West Coast, wake up in Fiji.
Yeah, that's a great thing to have available to you. You go to sleep one place and wake up in another place. Now, as we said, that Fiji is an archipelago, and you said there's 333 islands. What are those groupings?
So, okay, so it's interesting. So the way it works, so if we look at this map right here, you have the main island of Viti Levu, which is the big island. That's the biggest island in Fiji, and that's the large island there on the over there on the west, on the left side of the screen. And so most of your touristic sort of centers you have here on the map. So if you just go west of Viti Levu, you have your Mamanuca chain of islands, and there are resorts that half of them may be inhabited or might have a resort on them, but most of them are small, tiny little uninhabited islands. And same if you go up to the next chain of islands that are up there, you've got your Yasawa group of islands. So the Mamanucas kind of blend into the Yasawas. And the way that you reach those islands is you can go on a catamaran if you want to. You can hire a private speedboat. You could go out, if you want to go big, you can go by helicopter if you wanted to, which is absolutely stunning because you're flying over all these little islands. Like I said, many of them uninhabited. You're seeing little coral reefs just below the sea. This is what's causing the different colors that's going on down there in the ocean that you're seeing there below you in the South Pacific. It's absolutely stunning. Or you might take a private charter to some of these outer islands. But either way, that transfer is not your typical transfer. It's a stunning visual kind of tour in and of itself.
Well, let's talk about why
Yeah.
we're traveling to why we would travel to Fiji and look at some of those places that you were talking about.
So the mainland. So let's talk about that mainland there first. If you land on Viti Levu, a lot of times people from North America will use mainland to get to do some nice cultural experience or soft adventure. So you can do everything from visiting a traditional Fijian village. You can certainly, we're the soft coral capital of the world, so we're surrounded by water. So we're one of the best dive locations in the world, as you can imagine. Uncrowded coral reef, so the preservation is absolutely amazing in Fiji. You can turn away from the ocean and go up into the hills, and you can go hiking if you wanted to. Go out on a one-day hike if you want, a 3-day, a 5-day, as long as you want. And that's absolutely stunning too. When you're going hiking up into the land, up into the highlands, by the way, you could be passing waterfalls on the way out there, rivers, lakes, which is another really amazing thing to do. One of my favorite activities to do on the mainland have to do with the rivers. One of them is going up on a shot over jet into the interior of Fiji's mainland. And the other one is going kayaking down one of the rivers where you ultimately end up at a waterfall. So just really neat, unique experiences you won't be able to experience anywhere else. And on top of that, again, I always throw in the fact that it's always uncrowded. It's just you and your significant other or the group that you're traveling with, nobody else.
Yeah, I got that experience when I was there, and one of my travelers said, I feel like Moana.
Yeah.
Because it was just that kind of pristine experience and that secluded type of experience, and even taking a tender from ship to shore and walking in the water to get to where you're going. It is really a wonderful experience. Now, getting there, as a U.S. citizen, do you need a passport?
You do. So you will need a passport, and it needs to be valid for at least 6 months beyond your return. Okay, so just make sure that passport is valid. You know, so if you're traveling in February, make sure that it doesn't expire. What is that, before August or September, I think? So March, April, May, June,
Yeah.
August, September, something like that. So yeah, just make sure it's valid 6 months beyond. You have to show that you have a return ticket home, so not that you're going to forever stay in Fiji, although that's not a bad option. You just got to show that in order to board. And then just kind of know what, the names of your hotels, obviously, you're going to know those, because when you're filling out your customs form, you'll have to know what you're staying at to do.
And what about a visa?
No visas are required for U.S. citizens.
That's fantastic. The power of the passport, although we won't talk about that right now. We'll
Yeah. So it's
we'll come back to that. But in normal circumstances, you do not need a visa, and the power of the U.S. passport, all that you need to travel to Fiji is the passport. So I want to talk about the Fijian people, because you will fall in love with Fiji. I can tell you that is I'm warning you now, because when we went, we all just fell in love with Fiji, and that has a lot to do with the Fijian people. So tell us a little bit of the history of the Melanesian. I call them my Melanesian brothers and sisters in Oceania.
Okay, so usually the first question I get about, I always get a question about, when I say, well, they're incredibly friendly. The people in Fiji are friendly. It's the culture itself really supports that sort of nature, the locals. But then the question is, well, what do they speak? Like, what is their what's it all come from? So I mean, like, if we're going down to the nitty-gritty and like, what does the legend say? The legend is that people came all across the seas to a new land of Fiji, and that people came from Southeast Asia via Indonesia, and there was a mixture of Melanesians and Polynesians that created a highly developed society even before the Europeans arrived. Okay, so you'll see a good mix of your Melanesians, which is the majority of what the Fijian people are, and then Micronesians and Polynesians, a blend of all. What you'll also see over there is you'll see a good blend of others. You'll see Indians there, Europeans, Chinese, all sorts of nationalities. If you go back to the people of Fiji, I mean, you know, you do have these cross blends of your Melanesians and whatnot. But the thing is that it's a very, it's set up as a very much as a village sort of society. So you're always looking to your elders. You respect your elders, first of all, huge amount of respect for your elders, the chief. You need permission to just about do anything if you're of that land. And because of that, you have such humble, genuine expression of feelings and who they are. They welcome people to come into their village, you know, and fascinated by it, just as fascinated, if not more, as we are. They want to share that with others. And because we're not over touristed, there's not that external stress matter that you ever feel in Fiji.
And that's the one thing that I love is that there wasn't that. I'm sorry, there's one thing that I loved is that there wasn't that over tourism. What is the population of Fiji? Do you know?
About 800,000 in Fiji. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing you will hear over and over and over again is Bula. And I love the sound.
That's all you need to know.
And I love the meaning of that. So let's talk about the language a little bit. Some of those key phrases that you'll need to know.
Okay, so we won't quiz you on this after this, but really the one word you need to know in this list right here. Now, your mom might say different because she said make sure you always say please and thank you. So we'll cover that. If it's please, it's a carry, carry is how that's pronounced. That's please. And then thank you is binaka. So you'll hear a lot of that, particularly out of us. It's, you know, Bula, vinaka. You know, goodbye is mode. But to be honest with you, I mean, a lot of times as I go through this, a lot of times if people just don't know what to say or the words have escaped them, if you say Bula, it's kind of, you get it. It means a lot of things. What else? Excuse me, too low. And sotatale is kind of what our life, we're in a perpetual sotatale stage right now where it's kind of like, we'll see you later. We can't wait to see you later. So sotatale is see you later. See, if you ever leave an island, when you're leaving a village, when you're leaving your resort, it's always, you know, mode sotatale, you know, goodbye, we'll see you later.
Great. Well, one of the things that you and I both love is that cultural experience. And one of them is meke, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So tell us a little bit about meke.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this as, and I'll speak to this as from a tourism member, in that, you know, singing and dancing is a huge part of the tradition in Fiji. It's widely encouraged. It's a way that I truly believe that evolution has been able to advance. A meke essentially takes place amongst a group, and it's a dance. It's really a dance, and no matter where you go, you're going to be able to see these traditions play themselves out, whether or not you're at a resort, whether or not you're visiting a village, or sometimes even out at private spaces, depending on what your situation is. A meke is a good place to sort of see where these traditions of story and song are being played out. Some of them are more emotive than others. Some of them are very laid back and not a whole lot of movement going on except with hands and gestures and the shaking of the hips. But then you will see more of what I would say more of the warrior-based dances, where you have the warriors going out there and doing dances that are very emotive, very expressive, sometimes aggressive. But your traditional meke is usually singing the traditional songs, very kind of mellow, slow pace, but it's an absolute must to see. And it seems like everyone in Fiji can sing, dance, play the guitar, play drums.
Yeah. Something else I had the pleasure of experiencing is the kava ceremony. So what does that entail?
So that, if we go back to the part about where, let's talk about how communities they like to tell stories. So traditionally, where this comes from is you sit around a kava bowl, what they call a tanoa. And a tanoa is, first of all, what kava is it's something, it's a root that comes from the pepper plant, and it's called yangona. That's the official word for it. They pound it up into a nice powder. They'll put some water in it. You mix it up in a bowl, and then you put it in a like a half of a coconut shell, and you share it with guests. Now, traditionally, the chief will usually have that first, and it goes around. There's a certain way that the ceremony takes place, but then it's ultimately shared with the guests, people outside the village, and they get to try it. And what I'll say about the taste of kava is that it's very earthy flavored. People say it tastes like mud. I like to say earthy because it does be earth, and it really is. I mean, as all things should be. It's a little getting used to. It's an acquired taste for sure. It will have a numbing effect on your tongue and on your lips. I'm sure you tried this, Javon. Did you try? Okay, so you know what it's like. Now, does that same numbing effect happen up in your brain? Maybe, depending on how much you do. As Americans, we probably don't sit around that kava bowl enough to have an effect, but if you sit around there enough, sing enough traditional songs, listen enough stories, dance enough, you will have an effect, and it will probably calm you down.
With our group, it was 50-50. Half of us had an experience, and half of us said, oh, nothing happened, you know, as far as that feeling goes. But we were so grateful that we were able to experience that, along with a Lovo, because no visit to Fiji would be complete without experiencing a Lovo. So let's talk about that.
And you're lucky if you got to experience a Lovo. You're lucky you got the timing just right. So a Lovo is a traditional Fijian feast that's cooked below the earth, below the ground. Okay, so you know, they do this in Hawaii, obviously, with the pigs and whatnot. So in Fiji, we do the same thing usually with just about anything: fish, chicken, meats, vegetables, all sorts of great recipes. But it's basically a feast, and it usually will. A Lovo isn't just you do for the sake of having this great feast that's made under the ground. It usually will incorporate singing, it will incorporate dancing, a little kava drinking. It's an event. So a Lovo usually just takes place once or twice a week at any given resort. So, you know, if you're there at any place for a week, you're probably going to experience a Lovo, and you definitely want to do that. One last thing I want to say about the kava ceremony, and you're sitting around there, this is how stories are passed on year after year from generation to generation. You know, so it's not just the act of drinking it and the taste of it and the singing and dancing, it's the telling of stories. So if we weren't there and they were just the locals that were sitting around there, they would be talking and laughing and talking about what happened earlier in the day, what happened last week, what happened to the family 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's how stories are told, and it's really where the social center of wherever it is you want to be is happening. That's the place where it's all happening.
And we truly enjoyed it, and it was amazing the presentation that they do ahead of time and what he's doing here. It's amazing how those are wrapped, and then how it all unfolds after they unearth it. It's just such a wonderful experience, as is visiting villages and the whole tradition of visiting one another and gift giving.
Yeah, it's a must. I mean, I always tell people, look, I don't care how beautiful a resort you stay in. You may be right over the water. The water may be right in front of you. You hear the rainforest. All that is wonderful. But you are missing an opportunity if you don't have a village visit in there at least once. And some of them are more extensive than others. Some of them you may be not visiting a traditional Fijian village, but more of a community, which is just as satisfying, because you're meeting the locals, and what you're usually doing is you may be going into sitting down at maybe the church. It might be in a church, it might be in a community center. It could be out on the ground, but the point is that everyone from the village usually gathers around when you come in. Like I said, they're very intrigued. fact that where do you come from, and what's your background, what's your history. We want to sit down and maybe glean a little bit about you. And so when you're visiting a village, go in there. You want to usually present a gift. So if you can bring some yangona in, that's the best passage that you can have into a village. If you're coming in as a group, usually a host will bring that yangona so that in case you feel you've forgotten or didn't know where to get it, don't worry, it'll be all taken care of. The other thing that we see a lot of people visiting Fiji and aware that they might be visiting villages, they might want to come with some school supplies. Sometimes you might want to go visit a village and they may have a library or an area where they have students, and there's schools everywhere, so you can donate to the school. You can, and you don't have to bring a lot. You don't have to bring a whole backpack filled with things, but if you want to bring a few coloring books, pencils, crayons, pens, that sort of thing, that's fine. And it's just a little, because a lot of people are bringing this, you put all that together and it amounts to a lot.
Yeah.
But it is, and I see you have a picture of a donation box. The other thing I want to mention is that, even for the staff, okay, so when people ask if there's tipping in Fiji, and there's not, but this has to do back with that donation box, is that any resort that you stay in, there's usually a Christmas fund box, and it's usually near the check-in area, or you can ask where it is. And rather than tip before you leave this resort, or if you're on a cruise boat or whatnot, there will be a Christmas fund. You can donate to that before you leave, rather than tip all week, because tipping isn't a thing in Fiji. It happens sometimes. Americans just can't help themselves and hold back and not tip, but the way you can do that is give to the Christmas fund.
Fantastic. Well, Bob, thank you so much. I really can't wait to get back to Fiji.
We can't wait either.
Yeah, and so I want to thank you for being a part today. But stay with us, because at the end we will have some Q&A, and so someone may have some questions for you. Well, next up, Vinaka. Next up, we have to get there. So we are talking to Fiji Airways, Struble Becker. Looks like we haven't gotten audio, visual yet from Struble, but he is there. He's been in his role at Fiji Airways for 3 years. Prior to joining Fiji Airways, he spent 10 years at South African Airways, and that's where we initially met Struble, in North America, where he held various positions. He started as a marketing analyst, then manager of business development, with his last position being head of sales for the region, where he led a team of sales directors in the US and in Canada, along with inside sales support and business development. He started his airline career in revenue management at Spirit Airlines in Fort Lauderdale. And prior to this, Becker spent a couple of years working as a tour operator promoting Africa. He holds a master's degree in international business. Welcome, Struble. How are you today?
Hi, thank you very much for the introduction, Javon. I'm doing really well. And yeah, unfortunately, still can't see me, but you can see that beautiful airplane. That's probably much more important seeing that than it is seeing my face.
Well, I heard you shaved for today.
These current days, we don't necessarily prepare as we do in a normal day, but I did clean up really well for today. And unfortunately, you won't be able to see my beautiful Bula shirt that I'm wearing, but I'm definitely in the Fijian spirits.
As did I. I put on makeup. I haven't put on makeup in quite a while, so I know exactly what you mean. Well, tell us about Fiji Airways.
Yes, so thank you very much again for the introduction and for the opportunity. And thank you, Bob, for bringing us to this point in the presentation. I'm so excited when I hear Bob talk about Fiji, because he's experienced there as, been very long, many years, and also spent some time with Fiji Airways. So, he's seen the transition that we've gone through, which has been quite phenomenal over the last, 5 to 10 years. That beautiful aircraft that we have there is the Airbus A350 extra wide body. And we actually took delivery of those aircraft towards the end of 2019. So they're brand new, state of the art, and we're actually using them exclusively on our North American routes. So a very, very easy, convenient, and super luxurious way to get to Fiji. We fly daily out of Los Angeles, and we also fly 3 times a week out of San Francisco, as well as 3 times a week out of Honolulu to Fiji. So as was mentioned earlier, the flight from San Francisco or Los Angeles is about 10 hours overnight. It's really nice because you get on board, you get a very friendly Bula welcome from our very attentive and very lovely Fijian crew on board. And as I like to say, is your Fijian experience starts the moment you board our aircraft. You know, a couple hours of dinner, watching a movie, and then you fall asleep and you wake up the next morning and you're in paradise.
I had the opportunity to experience the flight service on Fiji Airways, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, we try to keep it light and friendly, and the way you would feel when you are in Fiji. You know, our airline slogan is "Welcome to our home." Because anywhere you go in Fiji, as Bob mentioned earlier as well, you're basically, you know, welcomed into people's houses. You're part of the family, and we want to extend that same experience when you board our aircraft.
Well, let's talk about your alliances and your partners.
Okay, so we are actually part of the One World Global Alliance. So, you know, a number of large airlines are partners with us there. For us in the US, the most important partnerships that we do have is our partnership with American Airlines, which means that you can earn and redeem miles, American miles on Fiji Airways. Along with that as well, for some folks that might be more on the west coast of the US, is that we have a very strong relationship with Alaska Airlines as well, which also allows members of the Alaska's Mileage Club to be able to earn and redeem miles on Fiji Airways as well.
Okay, and what about our in-flight experience, starting with economy class?
Yeah, so on our A350, that's what we're seeing right there. On that aircraft, as I said, brand new, sort of out of the box. Very comfortable slimline seating in economy class. It has a 333 configuration. You know, brand new in-flight entertainment system, which will keep you occupied for the time cruising over to Fiji. And then, of course, a lovely Fijian-inspired cuisine on board, as well as all the Fiji water that you can drink, or any of the, you know, lovely beverages that come from Fiji as well. We have some really good Fijian beer that we serve on board, and wine, and those are all complimentary for our passengers in economy class as well.
Well, that's good to know, because we know that there are a lot of airlines that don't give you even those basic services. So being able to get Fiji water and beer and those things complimentary on your in-flight service for economy class is wonderful. Do you have a premium economy?
So that's a very good question, Yvonne. We don't actually have a premium economy, but what we do have, again, on the A350 aircraft that fly from Los Angeles, we have what we call our Bula space seating, which is the first 10 rows of economy. Those have an extra like 4 inches of leg room. So for those people that need a little bit more space, there is a small upcharge for that, but obviously there is the opportunity to be able to sit in those seats, which give you a little bit more leg room than the normal space, but the service would be the same as throughout the rest of economy class.
That extra space is really nice to have, especially if you're tall, and it's nice to have that available. That's more affordable than having to go up to business class, which, by the way, if you can, it is a phenomenal experience.
Yeah,
I did, thank you so much that I did get a chance to experience your business class, and it was excellent service.
Yeah, the business class product is truly phenomenal. This product that we're seeing on the screen here is the product that is on the Los Angeles flight. It's fully lay flat, direct aisle access for each passenger, so you don't have to climb over somebody if you need to get up or go for a walk. you know, beautiful entertainment system as well, and then also excellent meal service accompanied by you know, fantastic wine and beverages from all over, inspired from all over the world as well.
Yes, and we talked a little bit about in-flight service and amenities, but if there's anything else that you want to add, we have the two different cabins here. So if you can tell us a little bit more about in-flight services and amenities.
Sure. Obviously, you know, as you can see, and as I explained, everybody has entertainment, whether you're in economy or business class. Obviously, in the business class, the entertainment product is enhanced product. You know, you're going to get the same friendly Bula smile, whether you're in economy or in business class. And then obviously, you know, meal services are a little bit different. Obviously, the business class meal is more of a a la carte style menu where you can pick and choose different options. In economy, there'll usually be you know, a variety of options, including always a vegetarian option on board as well for those people that you know, prefer not to have meat. Yep. Other than that, I think just overall friendly, courteous, and you know, as I said, that Fijian experience truly starts on board, and you feel like you're already you know, feeling that sort of Fijian island feeling the moment you board, already relaxed and ready to start your vacation.
Absolutely, and there is the Fiji Lounge. Is it only in Nadi or at the airport there?
Yeah, for our business class passengers, they do have access to our lounges in the US. In Los Angeles, we use the Qantas lounge. So if you are flying in business class, you do have access to that lounge. In Fiji, this is our brand new sort of flagship lounge in Fiji. It is complimentary for our business class passengers, but also passengers can pay a small fee, I think it's about $45 US to make use of the lounge, which is actually a real good value for money, because it's, you know, dining on demand, you know, shower facilities. It's a really nice way to sort of you know, get ready for the flight back to the US. And also for people who have priority pass through their credit card, which nowadays a lot of the sort of premier credit cards offer, that also gives you access to that lounge in Nadi as well.
And thank you for bringing that up as far as being able to get a day pass or day access, because I think a lot of us don't remember or don't know that you can do that. So you don't always have to be in business class. You may have some other perks with your credit card, or you can purchase that day pass. And like you said, it's really worth it, especially if you have some time that you're going to spend because of everything that's available to you in the lounge.
Yeah, you know, like we said, there's a quiet room if you needed to take a little nap, shower facilities if you wanted to clean up after, you know, traveling, maybe part of the day still coming off of an island and then spending some time in the airport. So I think it's really worthwhile and really good value for money to be able to spend some time there.
It certainly is. Well, Struble, thank you so much for joining us today. And again, the invitation to stay with us for the Q&A at the end to see if anybody has any questions directed to you. So thank you so much again. And Fiji is a wonderful airline, and no other way to get to Fiji than to fly Fiji Airways.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said thank you very much for the opportunity, and we look forward to having folks on board very soon.
Absolutely. Or should I say Vanaka? I have to make sure I'm using my Fijian language. Now we have Loretta St. Julian Ooms with South Sea Cruises. Loretta has worked in the hospitality industry in Fiji for over 17 years. She spent close to 10 years in hotel sales and worked her way to Director of Sales for Sheraton and West End Resorts, Fiji. For the last 3 years, Loretta has been with South Sea Cruises and Blue Lagoon Cruises. She's fifth generation Fijian and loves the ocean. Who wouldn't if they lived in Fiji? Her husband works for Fiji Airways, and they have 2 young boys that I'm sure keeps them very, very busy. Hello, Loretta, or Bula, Loretta. Well, welcome, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here today, Javon, and it's great to be able to share a little bit about South Sea Cruises and Blue Lagoon Cruises with you all.
Well, I can tell you firsthand, it is a wonderful experience, and it is certainly a Fijian experience, and that's what makes it so much more special. But there's a lot to more than Blue Lagoon Cruises. There's South Seas Cruises. So tell us about South Seas Cruises and what that encompasses.
So South Sea Cruises is actually Fiji's leading maritime operator. We service the Sawas and the Mamanuca Islands, and I'll show you a map shortly on the area that we service. But we run day cruises to the Mamanucas and the Sawas. We also offer resort connections to the many resorts that are around that region. And we have small ship cruising, which is Blue Lagoon Cruises, and I'll expand a little bit more about Blue Lagoon Cruises today. And we also tailor a lot of events around the incentive and conference market, because Fiji is very big with the conference and incentive market.
Well, we were there this past February, just before we couldn't travel anymore. So I'm so grateful we had that opportunity. And of course, we're looking for another opportunity in February of 2021, where we had the opportunity to charter the entire ship. So let's talk about Blue Lagoon Cruises, because that's the experience that we had, and it was such a wonderful experience. So what are the Blue Lagoon Cruises? Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, we lost you for a little while.
Okay, so let's talk about the Blue Lagoon Cruises.
So with Blue Lagoon Cruises, we're actually, this year we celebrate our 70th anniversary. So we're actually one of the oldest tourism operators here in Fiji. We operate 3, 4, and 7-night itineraries, cruising through the Mamanucas and the Sawas. Our cruise includes all your meals and activities, and there certainly is a lot to do every day, and you will never go away hungry. And I'm sure you experienced that, Javon, when you were on board.
Yes, we did.
We offer a range of international as well as Fijian-inspired cuisine. Most of them are served buffet style, but we also have the captain that comes and hosts several captain's dinners, and it's a 3-course meal. So there is a lot that goes on board over those 3 to 7-night cruises that we have.
And I love how intimate they are. And in February, we had the entire ship to ourselves, and we will have the ship to ourselves in February of 2021 as well. So where does Blue Lagoon Cruises sail?
So we sail through, if you're referring to the map here, you arrive into Nandi on Viti Levu, and you would board the vessel from Port Denarau. So that's a 30-minute drive from Nandi International Airport to Port Denarau. We take you through the Mamanucas and then through the Sawa Islands, and these islands are highlighted there on the map. On the west side of the island, and we take you through volcanic islands up through the Sawas. There's quite a few islands there that have been made famous, with Monjuki, where the movie Castaway was filmed, featuring Tom Hanks, and also at the very top of the Sawas, where we tie up to a coconut tree, where Brooke Shields was featured in the movie The Blue Lagoon.
Yes, well, that was a lot of fun to go on Castaway. I call it Castaway Island. And it's wonderful how you have the rocks arranged saying help, but Gene took a picture of me there, and then he posted it on social media with the caption, "Send champagne."
Where's Wilson?
Exactly. So that was a lot of fun, and we were on the MV Princess. So I want to talk about the MV Princess and its amenities.
So the MV Princess is your home away from home. We have 34 cabins and can carry a maximum of 68 passengers on board. In this picture, you'll notice that we are very close to shore, and this is where we actually tied up to a coconut tree. And not many vessels can do this, but we're so lucky that we have a small vessel, so it's very intimate and boutique, where we can tie up to a coconut tree. You get close to the shore and close to bays, and you can swim ashore. On board with the 34 cabins, there are 2 different cabin types. There's the hibiscus cabin and the orchid cabin. And we'll show you a few cabins later on down in the presentation. A little bit more about the vessel. You're looking here at the sky deck. So here at the sky deck is a perfect place to take in the views and also enjoy sunset cocktails. And we also host evening dinners on board on the sky deck, so it is quite a magical place.
It really is.
As you go down through the vessels, there's 3 levels of accommodation. We have 2 bars on board, and we have an open-air dining area which overlooks the plunge pool. So at the very back on the lower deck, you can see the plunge pool there.
Yes, and I can tell you, at night on the sky deck is the most magical. To watch the sunset, and then to just really, you can really kind of see the outline of the islands while you're up there, and it really is just a very peaceful and pristine experience. So sunset is my favorite time on the sky deck.
Yes, yes, it is quite a special place up there.
So let's talk about the accommodations.
So in the cabins, you'll actually, there's the lovely Susanna making up the cabin in there. But we have 34 cabins. The bedding configuration in the cabins is either a queen size bed or 2 twin beds. There's a fresh nautical theme that you will see throughout the cabins. And they're very much the same size, and the layout is the same, but it's just the location of the cabin that takes you from a hibiscus, which is on the lower deck, and then the orchids, which are middle and upper deck. In each of the cabins, they are all fully air conditioned. They have a yacht style ensuite, a very large window so you can look out and make sure you don't miss anything when we're cruising along. And each of the cabins have a premium mini bar, which is offered on the day that you arrive. And we have coffee machines in all the cabins. Now, as a part of our 70th birthday, we've improved and offered some really nice gifts to all guests that come into our cabin. So each guest would get a sarong, or a sulu, as we would call them in Fiji. You'd get a Blue Lagoon tote bag, and then also a reusable metal water bottle. So we're really moving towards the sustainability and being environmentally friendly. So on every level of the boat, you will have access to a filtered water system, so you can refill your water and make sure you're hydrated every day.
Yes, and every day you have your Fiji water, which I made sure I had for today.
Yeah.
So what about some of the extras?
Now, some of the extras that we have on board, with all your tours and your village tours, your snorkeling, they're all included. But your extras are beverages that you would buy, that you would consume throughout the visit, aside from what we have in your mini bar, which will include several beers, a couple of sodas, and also some bottled water. The extras would be scuba diving. There's also a spa on board, so you can pamper yourself anytime you like. They do early morning treatments. They do sunset treatments. So you can choose whenever you'd like to have a spa treatment. And then there's sports fishing as well. So aside from that, everything else is included. So you can actually be as busy as you like, or you can relax and not do anything if you prefer to read a book.
Yeah. Lazy days are certainly wonderful days in Fiji, and I can tell you that we kept the massage therapist very busy.
Yeah.
I don't think she had an hour's rest while
Yeah.
we were on board. And what I love is that you incorporate some wonderful daily activities as well that are all included, and we have some pictured here. So tell us about some of the things we have here.
So every day you'd have a morning activity and an afternoon activity, and most passengers would do all the activities, and that's entirely up to you. But here on the slide we have a hike, and this is quite a popular one. When we get to Nanuya Island, you start off very slow and low, and then the elevation's there, so you can work up a good sweat. I think after all the eating, it's a good idea to go on that hike. But the views are magnificent, looking over the Nanuya Island region. And then we've got visits to schools. You get to visit villages and really see how the Fijians live. And I think you come away appreciating so much more what you have back at home when you see how little they have and how happy they are. So, so it is a really good insight to how the Fijian people live. On Sundays, you get to visit the church, the Methodist church at Soso village, and that's amazing. The singing is breathtaking, and it's one that almost everyone would attend, the church service on a Sunday.
We did it all, and we used some of our photos here as part of your presentation. So that's us on a hike, and the gentleman in the yellow shirt there, he was granted an honorary chief during our visit there, and he took it very seriously, I can tell you that. He was a bit nervous, but he took it very, very seriously. And so, yes, it is such a wonderful experience. And one of the things I wanted to talk about when you said about the food on board the ship is that it's so fresh and local. The captain got off the ship one day and foraged for coconuts and came back with a bag of coconuts, and we had coconuts as part of our meals on board. Local fishermen would come up with small boats around your vessel, and so we had the fresh catch of the day. Everything was so fresh, and the chef did a fantastic job. The food was so wonderful. But I really appreciated the fresh catches and the fresh ingredients that I could see the captain and his crew gathering every time we came ashore.
We always want to support the villages in the Asawas, so wherever we can get the fresh fish and the coconuts and the breadfruit, we will always ensure that we can get that on board and cook that for all our passengers.
Yes, and let's talk about some of the water activities, because we are, after all, on the water.
So for those that love the ocean like me, you can swim and snorkel every day. There's a maximum cruise time of 4 hours. So the day, and we would be up early pulling anchor to make sure that you have as much time to spend enjoying all the adventure and activities. Now, around the ocean, you can see in the slide, you've got sharks. Now, they are Fijian, they are friendly, and they are vegetarian, so you don't need to worry. You have to say that you've snorkeled with the sharks. From May to October, the manta rays visit us, and if you are traveling in that time, that's such a special time to swim with these huge creatures. It is quite a special experience to swim with the manta rays. But the other photo on the left is at the Sawe Lau Caves, and this is quite a sacred area. It's a limestone cave that's been carved out naturally by the ocean. But history says that back in the day, there was a villager who had a woman that he hid away because he wanted to marry her, and her family didn't allow her to be with him. So he snuck her off and hid her in the caves, and every night he brought her dinner. So that's the history behind the caves. But the movie Blue Lagoon was shot in here as well. You actually get to experience a swim in the cave, and if you're brave enough, there's you can dive down underneath and come out to another cave. And did you get to do that, Javon?
I did, and it was such a wonderful experience because the ocean water is so warm, and then you go inside the cave and it's cold. The water's cold, the cave is cold, but it's a wonderful experience, and you get to explore. And the crew, your onboard crew, they're there to help you every step of the way. And yes, I did. I was a little nervous, and I did chicken out with the sharks. I was ready to go, and I told Gene I was going, but the minute he said, "Okay, the boat is here," I thought, no, you can go ahead. That's okay.
There's always a next time.
I said next time I will not chicken out. He said like you that the sharks were friendly. I don't know about that firsthand, but he did say that the sharks were friendly.
You mentioned, Javon, about our crew. Now, one thing we're really proud of is since our establishment 70 years ago, we've had 100% Fijian crew on board the Fiji Princess and with Blue Lagoon Cruises. And that's very special because our crew to guest ratio on board the Fiji Princess is actually 28 to 30 crew members. So you have a very high ratio where you're treated to Fijian hospitality from the moment you arrive right through the cruise. So, and you may have noticed that by day 2 of the cruise, the crew know everyone's names and you feel like family right away.
Yeah, it was a very family type of experience, and the crew was phenomenal. We gave them a standing ovation on our last day, and there were tears when we were leaving. Now you also have an island resort, Mala Mala. So tell us about that.
So Mala Mala is the world's first island on its own island beach club. This opened about 3 years ago, and we actually offer day trips from Port General daily, and it is a very popular spot for conference and incentive markets that want to charter the island for itself, for their company. So we've had companies like Coca-Cola, for example, that have taken the island and themed it red and done things like that. But the beautiful Mala Mala, we have an option for guests who travel with Blue Lagoon Cruises and have the day free before they depart on a 3 or 7 night cruise with us to go and experience the beach club and enjoy the day there. And our Fiji Princess will come by at about 3:30 in the afternoon and pick you up like a VIP and tender you to the big vessel and take you on to Mondriki. But Mala Mala is 30 minutes from Port General, so very close. And yeah, a great beach club with lots of activity and water sports and private cabanas and butlers as well.
Ah, sounds fantastic. Well, Loretta, I tell you right now, I'm reminiscing and I'm wishing I was tied off to a palm tree so that I can swim ashore, because it was such a wonderful, wonderful experience. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Javon.
Now I want to remind everyone. Yes, I'm really anxiously awaiting for February. Seriously. I want to just remind everyone that if you have any questions, you can go ahead. You don't have to wait until later. You can go ahead and put your questions in the question box now, type them in, and then that way we're ready to go when we finish up, and we'll make sure that all of your questions are answered and make sure that they get to the right person. Well, certainly last but not least, Adeline, thank you so much for being so patient. And I tried to compete with you here with the floral headband, but I'm telling you, yours is phenomenal. I love that headband.
Oh, thank you, Javon.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Well, Adeline Lee Aracito is with Rosie Holidays, and she has over 20 years experience in tourism industry and is currently overseeing Rosie Holidays global marketing and business development. Prior to her role at Rosie Holidays, Adeline was the marketing service manager at Tourism Fiji in the head office, and prior to that at Tourism Fiji Los Angeles as the regional marketing manager. So once again, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. Well, Adeline, tell us about Rosy Holidays, and I love Rosy Living.
Thank you, Javon, and Bula Vinaka to everyone, and thank you for the introduction. But Rosy Holidays, again, is the inbound operator. For us, I think I've been with the company a little over 8 years now, and it's been such a fantastic experience. And I think just within the company itself, we've been around for a little over 40 years. We'd like to think that we're an extension of Advantage Travel when they're here in Fiji. We're 100% locally owned and locally operated. But even what makes us more special is that we're 100% family owned. Being family owned as a company, we like to think that we treat all our clients as if they're part of our big Rosy family. And for those of you that have experienced, or if you haven't, Bob spoke about the culture of the people, the friendliness of the people. If you find one unfriendly person here in Fiji, you have to tell Loretta and we'll get that fixed. But also, just as a side note, you'd see ladies where this is probably a little bit different, but what we tend to wear a lot of are our island tiki-tikis. So if you have a look at the island tiki-tikis, they're quite meaningful as well, where if we wear it on the right, it means we're married. If we wear it on the left, it means we're single. If you have it in the middle, then you're quite undecided what you actually want to do. So as a company, as Rosy Holidays, we're always privileged at the opportunity to assist our partners in curating unique experiences for all clients that visit Fiji.
And you're an award-winning company as well.
Yes, correct. Over the years, I think we've won many multiple awards. Something that we're very proud of, we've had both the founder of the company, who's Rosy herself. She's in her late 80s, but still very active in the business. Her son, Mr. Witten, Tony Witten, now runs the company. And both of them, within the last 4 years, have even had the opportunity of getting awards, national awards from the president of Fiji in terms of government, just for their service towards tourism. The great thing about awards is it's all good, but also we as a company need to ensure we're continuously coming up with initiatives that are new and ensuring that we're meeting all our clients' expectations.
Well, absolutely, and we have had nothing but fantastic experience. And we were in great hands. We were in Rosy hands while we were there. So, what is that Rosy experience? What comes to mind when people think of Fiji and what you present?
Yeah, I mean, when people think of Fiji, I think a lot of times you think of a tiny little island in the middle of nowhere. Some maps don't even feature us, unfortunately. Other than that, Javon, you clearly mentioned about the Fiji water, which is fantastic. We even have here some of the other little products like Pure Fiji that I'm sure your team absolutely loved, and a lot of the facilities that you would have used have them, as well as in-room amenities. Other than that, as a national sport, and Bob would attest to this, that if he's running any sort of promotions in the US, and if a Fijian team is playing rugby at the same time, he better be finishing it early, because the whole country stops when our boys are playing sevens rugby. Perception again is, whilst we do have our indigenous Fijian language with over 40 different dialects to choose from, wow. English is the official language, so your clients will not have a problem communicating with the local people, although some can be quite shy, or we have totally different accents from that of an American or an Australian.
Yes. Well, let's talk about getting around, because that's one of the things that I truly loved with the different modes of transportation, and certainly how easy it was, but it is such a unique experience, especially when you're getting from island to island.
Yes, on the transportation, again, you have the lovely Fiji Airways. and where we as a destination are so grateful to have our own national airline carrier that could service all the international flights from a lot of our major ports. But other than, I think Strobel said it right, where the experience started on the Fiji Airways aircraft. But when you do arrive in Fiji, and again, as a destination, because perception is we're a small island destination, I've attended some consumer shows where I've been asked, would I go on horseback to go to my resort? Fiji, fortunately enough, we do have the infrastructure, and there's a wide array as well of activities to choose from. But within this, getting around Fiji, you could even go on private transfers that we would provide. We have the shared transfer opportunities. Other than that, going out to the other islands, again, remember we have over 333 islands. Going out to the different islands, we have our own domestic airline carrier that's owned by our national airline carrier that could get you to some of the outer islands. Other than that, we've got the South Sea Cruises that operate the largest maritime operation in terms of servicing within the Mamanudas alone, over a dozen different resorts that cater for different clientele. You've got private water taxis, you've got helicopters, you've got seaplanes. Some people like the opportunity of going on our local buses. Other than that, we as Rosie Holidays also own the franchise for Thrifty Car Rental. So there's opportunities as well to have self-drive itineraries. However, keep in mind, we do drive on the other side of the road from an American, so it may take some getting used to.
That's okay. I think we can get used to it. Now, what are some of those top attractions, those top Fiji attractions?
I think when you talk about top attractions, the reason for using this image is it's all about the islands. However, here in Fiji, it's understanding your client to know what sort of island would actually suit the type of clients we're bringing. Because you've got islands as large where it would take you a couple of hours to go around the whole island. We've got islands so small that in 20 minutes you've walked around the entire island. So in terms of attractions, a lot of it has to do with islands, sailing, day cruising. But I think one great thing to keep in mind is being a small island destination, the vast variety in both land-based and water-based activities is something that we're very proud of. And just the array of activities. So if you're someone like me who's not as fit as I should be and not high energy sort of person, there's still a lot of soft adventure activities that you could do while here. And I think that's another shot there of the beautiful Mala Mala, which is personally one of my own favorite. Whilst you have lots of different cruise or day cruise options that are offered, if you have clients that are looking for something different, the Mala Mala Beach Club is great. Snorkeling, regardless of where you're staying in Fiji, you have access to some fantastic snorkeling, diving, surfing in terms of your water activities. But I think one thing that's important to note is whilst you have all these water activities available and land activities, a lot of people would keep asking, especially from a destination perspective, what is it that makes Fiji different? And I think with that, it's truly the spirit and the culture of our Fijian people that keeps it unique.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with you on that, but it is romantic. So let's talk about romance and honeymoons and weddings.
Yes, definitely. We, as Rosie Holidays, also have a department that specifically look after weddings. So I think from the North America market, majority of our clients that do come, if they're coming for rest and relaxation, the two largest niches would have to be in the romance and honeymoon, and also the dive in terms of the adventure activity. But if you're getting married in Fiji, it is legal, so it's not a for show wedding. Everything could be legalized. All operators, including Blue Lagoon Cruises, would have wedding coordinators that would coordinate all this. And I think for the romance side of it, Bob would attest to it, that many times he comes on his own and he goes to all these romantic resorts. It's truly, because we've got most of our island resorts that are couples only. So if you're on your own sitting there, you're thinking, okay, I need my significant other right here beside me. With all the islands that we have and some of the resorts in itself would have access to 5 different sandbanks. So that feeling of open spaces is definitely here in Fiji.
Yeah, in open spaces, but secluded at the same time. You have both of
Correct.
those feelings at the same time. Now, I am a huge foodie, so I do want to talk about the food, and I want to let everyone know that we do have a handout and a takeaway. I found a great recipe. Is it called kokoda?
Kokonda, yes.
Kokonda, sorry, which is a wonderful, it's the national dish, isn't it? But it's
Yes.
so fresh. But I want to talk about the different, because there's lots of wonderful food and drink in Fiji.
Yeah, for Fiji, when you think of food and drink, I think our culture or our people is what influences the lovely mix in terms of the taste that are put, because we've got quite a huge population of Indians, then you've got your indigenous Fijians, but one thing that's similar across the board is the use of seafood. So we have the ocean right around us in terms of accessibility. So traditional food, a lot of it is based around seafood dishes and the use of coconut. Here in the islands, coconuts are always known as the tree of life, and not just for Fiji, for all our neighboring Pacific islands. So this particular dish, kokonda, which Javon will be happily sharing the recipe on, it's actually Fiji-style ceviche. But I think what makes it so special, it's the use of fresh coconut cream in this ceviche. So whilst it's raw fish, we'd like to think it's marinated in lemon. And it's quite refreshing on a real warm day here in Fiji, just to have this as a lovely cold dish.
Oh, it really is. And like I was reminiscing about being tied off to a palm tree, I'm reminiscing about having this dish almost every day. It was so fresh and so wonderful. Now, of course, there's Fiji water, but what are some of those other, and we talked about the Lovo, which is a festival, of sorts, and certainly with the whole ceremony that that you participate in. But we also had an island visit, and they laid out this wonderful food, and like you said, fresh seafood. It was crab, and again, a lot with coconut. What are some of those dishes?
A lot of it is crab, prawn dishes, and I think with the influence of the our Indian brothers and sisters who have been in Fiji from the early 1900s, a lot of it is even adding curry spices to coconut milk, to fresh coconut. So you'd see a lot of that. A lot of our salads are from your highland ferns. Or we have nama, which is our version of sea grapes as well. And we as Rosie Holidays actually operate a Rosie Living Tour, where your clients have the opportunity of going out to the Asawa Islands and seeing how our women actually pick nama or traditional sea grapes.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. And I have to tell you that our groups love to shop. So let's talk about some shopping and what to buy.
You must have a lot of females in your group then, Javon, because I'm sure Loretta and I both attest to that. And Bob is smiling because that's all he ever does when we're in America, is take us to all the shops, and we're kind of missing that right now. But here in Fiji, again, we're not home to your Louis Vuittons and your Coaches. We would actually come to America for that and go to all your outlet malls there. But there is still a great selection of shopping that's available. If you look at Loretta, for instance, she's got some beautiful black pearls that she has on. So Fiji has its own range of black pearls. Even though it's not on my slide, we even make our own chocolate. So if you're looking for some unique types of chocolate, that's available. We have this company called Rise Beyond the Reef, which is a great story because they've managed to get village women to produce all these different Fijian artifacts, including even toilet bags, baskets, flower lays that they could actually take back with them. A Rise Beyond the Reef that you'd have the opportunity for. I have their cover. So generally, cover comes in a powder. Whilst you see traditionally mixed, they have the ones for the tourist as well, or we even have the cover tablets that people could get. A lot of unique gear. So that's a new product. So if you look at it, the company name is Fiji Cover. So they do quite a range of different things. And again, it's not a drug. It's almost like a relaxant. So if Javon would have tasted cover, I tell everyone, when you taste cover, yes, it does not taste nice. And I'm a Fijian, I'm saying that myself. It's not a nice taste, but it numbs the tongue. Is that correct? So it has a little bit effect of numbing of the tongue. So we believe that keeps you relaxed.
Yeah.
Or well, some of our husbands say, make the wife stop talking.
Well, it's not bad. It's not something that's a terrible taste. It's just as Bob said, it is a bit earthy, maybe even a little medicinal. But you know, they do sell it here at some stores, and some stores have stopped selling it because of that relaxing effect. But it is a wonderful experience to have. It didn't have much of an effect on me, but a couple of our travelers did have an effect from it. I did get a little bit of that numbing, but kind of the same way you would get from cinnamon or nutmeg or something like that. Yeah, so it was the same
and
thing.
And here in Fiji, it depends on how it's mixed, you know, because you'd have the stronger way of mixing it and the one that's not that strong. So again, lots of different things to do here in Fiji. My closing slide there actually had the words Binaka Vakalevu, which means thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And I'm so appreciative that you all took your time out to join us today. We're going to look at some of those questions just a moment. Well, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that video. That was our experience, and the song was Isa Isa. And every time we were about to leave, whether we were at the hotel or on the cruise ship, we got a wonderful serenade of Isa Isa, which is it's like a farewell song. So It was such a wonderful experience. I'm going through the questions, and okay, I was able to get them up so that I could see them. Is everyone hearing me? Yes, I think so. Okay, so are there vegetarian selections in abundance on the island, even at the Lovo? How about Adeline, if you answer that question for us?
Sure, there are many vegetarian options. Even within the Lovo, we have our own version of local spinach. So the local spinach, which is taro leaf, that's nice with fresh coconut cream in it as well. Other than that, I had mentioned the Highland ferns that are used for salads for vegetarian. We have local curries. So dependent on what sort of vegetarian they are, we definitely are able to cater for that as a destination.
Fantastic. And I can tell you, we had a few vegans on our program, and they had no problems at all. And actually, they were really in heaven with the abundance of fruits and vegetables that were available both on the island as well as on board the ship. And so this question is for you, Loretta. Do any of the suites have balconies on board?
No, none of the cabins have balconies, but they do have large windows, and you can actually get around the outside of the ship, and there's balconies, but you can't access them from your actual cabin.
Great. Okay. And I can tell you, you spend so much time outside of your cabin, and yeah, I think the whole ship is a balcony, but I do love the sun deck and spending time out there, or just on the back of the and excuse me for not using the proper terminology for the areas of the ship, but on the stern, I think it is. It's very relaxing, or in any of your lounge areas on board.
Yes. So there's two areas, and the actual sky deck is a great covered area with some great lounge chairs. There's deck chairs, so if you're wanting to lie in the sun, you can, or if you're wanting to sit in the shade, you can. And we also have Wi-Fi upstairs and also in the lounge bar, so you can sit comfortably and stay connected with your family and friends while you are on board. As long as we're as long as there's a signal that we can connect you to Wi-Fi.
Yes, and there's another question about washer and dryer on board.
Yes, we do have laundry facilities. We have 2 washing machines and 2 dryers on board.
Oh, great, great. And this one, Bob, is for you. Are there any health or vaccines that are required to come to Fiji? And what is the time zone difference? Bob? Or maybe if we lost Bob, maybe Adeline?
What is it? What is the question?
The question is about vaccines that are required for Fiji. Are there any?
No, nothing required prior to coming to Fiji.
Oh, okay, great. And I can tell you, we are right now. We're 17 hours from Central Time. So from Eastern Time, is that 16 or 14? It's 16 from Eastern time time difference. So Fiji is already into Thursday, and we talked about that just a little bit. Any precautions necessary to take for visitors? Maybe Adeline?
I would think, I mean, we're an island destination. A lot of times in our survivor kit, because we're in the tropics, we will have mosquitoes in certain areas. However, there is mosquito repellents that we do advise our clients to use when they're going outdoors. Again, the most important thing is the sunshine, having great sunscreen that's available, probably a good pair of reef shoes as well, and consistently staying hydrated throughout your entire stay.
Absolutely. Let's see, maybe I should put my glasses on because I'm trying to read the questions. Sorry about that. I was trying to be cute, but I need to put my glasses on.
You're so cute.
Let's see. Let me try to see. Oh no, Bob, you are still there. Okay, great. There was a question about the Yangona that we talked about, wanting to know what is that, and about that they talked about with the gift. So can we just repeat very shortly what the Yangona is? Let's see, let me see if, yeah, it shows that you're not muted, so I'm not sure.
Now? Okay,
There
now
you
can you
are.
hear me?
There you
Okay.
are.
Okay. Yeah, you're asking about the Yangona. Was that your question?
Yes, the Yangona.
So what it is, the origin of it, or what?
Well,
what?
they wanted to know what is the Yangona, and it was mentioned as a gift item. So I guess just
Yeah, I mean, it's a pepper plant is essentially what it is, right? And it's essentially pulled from the ground and pulverized. I mean, you can literally hear them with a large mortar and pestle just kind of pounding on that until it becomes a fine powder. And then when you mix it with water in that bowl, they put it like through a cheesecloth or lamb's cloth or whatever, and they kind of squeeze till all the water and the liquefied kava comes out of there. So I mean, when we say it's earthy, I mean it literally is. It's been pulled right out, hasn't been cooked. It's just been pulverized, and now it is dried out for a little while. How long do you think that's dried out for, Adeline, before they actually start to pound it?
Well, basically, just for them to get the cover that's ready to drink, the longer it is, the stronger. So I would say on an average crop would be anywhere from 3 to about 8 years. Then the sunning, I would say the sunning would be literally almost 2 days of sunning out in the hot sun before the pounding is actually, pounding actually happens.
And the one question about the seasons, is there a rainy season?
Yeah, I mean, like we like to say, anytime's a good time to come to Fiji. But if you want to know that rainy season where it's more likely to rain, it's probably somewhere anywhere from the end of November, early December, through maybe mid to late March. And what that means is some rainy seasons rainier than others. You may not experience a lot of rain during that time, or you might. I've been out there where it's rained 5 out of the 7 nights out there, and it didn't diminish any of my outdoor time at all, because you quickly find that everything's kind of the same temperature in Fiji when you're walking outside. The rain, it's not cold rain, it's not too windy. You're out there going about your activities you normally would. If you want less humidity and more of that dry weather climate, then you're looking anywhere from April through probably November.
Yeah, we were there in February and we did not experience much rain, and if it did, it was very short and very dry,
and some
very
regions
quickly.
rain more than others too.
Yeah.
That's another factor in it.
Yeah. Now I'm sorry, were you going to say something else?
The only thing I was going to say is you all were talking about the food and whatnot, and how how vegetarians Fiji caters to every taste, every palate out there. And one of the things I wanted to mention is that the idea of farm to table, I know a lot of people like to talk about farm to table. In Fiji, there's nothing else other than farm to table. So this causes us to scratch our heads when we hear farm to table, because in Fiji it's like, what else is there? How else would you eat your food? How else would you get your vegetables or your fruits of the day? Everything's right there, locally grown.
It really is, and we were always excited to see the local fishermen come up to the boat, and so we didn't know what fish was going to be on the menu until they had the fresh catch of the day, and it was wonderful. And to be able to have that fresh fish made into a ceviche was just wonderful. So sometimes we didn't know what was going to be on the lunch buffet or that was going to be for dinner that night, because it really was about the fresh catch or what was available that day. So yeah, and like I said, we had several vegans that had no problem whatsoever, and actually had they were saying how wonderful the food was, and how, unlike some other destinations that they've been to, they really didn't need to worry about what they could eat and what they couldn't eat. So it wasn't a stretch to cater to different types of dietary restrictions.
It's easy to do, very easy to do.
Yeah. The only other questions we have left available are, of course, some COVID questions. And quite frankly, it's really difficult to answer those questions right now. Fiji is not an issue at all.
Fiji is COVID-free, and we'd like to keep it that way.
Yes.
We can't wait to welcome everyone in open arms. I'm in Los Angeles. I can't wait to go myself. I mean, it's kind of torture looking at Adeline on the screen and Loretta to think they're actually in the place that I wish I could be.
They look like sunshine, don't they?
We're ready as soon as those borders open and we can fly, ready to go.
Absolutely. So in regards to our trip coming up in February, we are hoping we're a go, but we really can't answer that question right now until we have firm answers on what's going on, as I said, because it's really about the United States right now. Yeah. So Bob, Loretta, Adeline, I know Strobel had to leave, but I want to thank you so much. We've had so many comments that saying that this was very educational, very informative, and a lot of fun. So I want to thank you for being a part of our first travel webinar series.
Vinaka Vaka Levu, thank you very much, Javon.
Yes, I have to remember to say Vinaka.
Well, the other one is Ni Samode and Sotatale.
Okay. Well, and I want to say Vinaka Lavalevu. Is that correct? Is that correct? Vinaka Vaka Levu. I want to say that to all of our attendees who signed on to the webinar and this evening, and stay tuned for what's going to be next in our travel webinar series. As I said, we're going to have them until the very end of the year and maybe even beyond. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. It's been a blast, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.